The world went silent the moment the truck crossed the center line. 1 second, Rowan Mercer was driving down a bright summer road beneath a clear blue sky, humming along to an old song on the radio, thinking about nothing more serious than what he would eat for lunch. The next second, a deafening crash shattered everything. Metal screamed. Glass exploded. Sunlight vanished behind twisted steel. Pain flooded through his body like fire. Then there was darkness. Not the peaceful kind. The terrifying kind. The kind where distant voices sounded underwater and memories drifted away like leaves in a storm. When Rowan finally opened his eyes again, days had passed. The first thing he saw was a white ceiling. The second thing he felt was pain. The third thing he noticed was a woman standing beside his hospital bed staring at him with tears in her eyes. She wore blue scrubs and a hospital badge. Her expression looked strangely familiar, yet Rowan couldn't place her face. Then she leaned forward and softly asked, a question that sent a chill through him. "Remember me?" Rowan blinked through the haze of medication and confusion. His throat felt like sandpaper. His head pounded. And after several seconds of searching his broken memory, he whispered back the only answer he could give. "Should I?" Before we continue this emotional story, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Speaks if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the incredible ways life brings people back together. Your support helps these stories reach more hearts around the world. The nurse stepped back after hearing his answer. For a brief moment, disappointment crossed her face, but she quickly hid it behind a professional smile. Rowan noticed it even through the fog clouding his thoughts. He spent the next several days drifting between sleep and wakefulness. Doctors explained that he had suffered severe injuries, but had been fortunate to survive. Multiple fractures, internal bleeding, and a serious concussion had nearly taken his life. Fortunate. The word felt strange because surviving didn't feel fortunate. It felt exhausting. Every movement hurt. Every breath reminded him of the accident. And every morning he woke up wondering whether his old life still existed outside those hospital walls. The nurse returned regularly. Her name tag read Celine Hart. Unlike the other nurses, she seemed quietly invested in his recovery. She adjusted his blankets before he asked. She remembered how he preferred his water. She noticed when pain medication was wearing off before he mentioned it. Yet, Rowan couldn't understand why she looked at him the way she did. There was history in her eyes. A history he couldn't remember. One sunny afternoon, while daylight streamed through the large hospital windows, Rowan finally asked, "Have we met before?" Celine paused while checking his monitor. A faint smile appeared. "Yes." "When?" "A long time ago." "Where?" Her eyes softened. "You changed my life once." The answer only confused him more. Rowan searched every corner of his memory, but found nothing. At 34 years old, he had lived in 3 different states, attended multiple schools, worked several jobs, and met thousands of people. The concussion made recalling details even harder. Still, something about her certainty unsettled him. She wasn't mistaken. He could see that. She genuinely knew him. The question was how. As the days passed, Rowan's recovery progressed slowly. Physical therapy sessions were painful and frustrating. He had always been independent, the kind of person who fixed his own problems and carried his own burdens. Now he needed help sitting up. The loss of control weighed heavily on him. At night he stared out the hospital window watching daylight fade into evening and wondered whether his life would ever feel normal again. His family visited when they could, but most lived far away. Friends sent messages and flowers. Coworkers checked in occasionally. But somehow the person who seemed most present was Celine. Every morning she arrived with the sunrise. Every afternoon she encouraged him through therapy. Every evening she wished him strength before ending her shift. Yet she never explained their connection. One afternoon Rowan noticed a small silver bracelet on her wrist. It looked old and worn from years of use. For some reason it caught his attention. When she noticed him looking at it, she gently touched it. "This was a gift," she said. "From who?" She smiled. "You." Rowan stared. "What?" The smile grew emotional. "You really don't remember?" "I wish I did." She nodded slowly. "I know." Then she changed the subject. That night Rowan couldn't sleep. Questions filled his mind. How had he given her a bracelet? When? Why couldn't he remember? And why did her voice carry so much emotion whenever she spoke about the past? Days later, a breakthrough finally arrived. It happened during a therapy session. While struggling through painful walking exercises, Rowan suddenly remembered a detail from his teenage years. A school. A rainy afternoon. A frightened girl sitting alone near a bus stop. The memory lasted only seconds before disappearing again. But it left something behind. A feeling. Recognition. That evening when Celine entered his room, Rowan studied her carefully. For the first time, he noticed similarities. Not in her appearance. In her eyes. They matched the frightened girl from his memory. His heart skipped. "Wait." She looked up. "What is it?" "I think I remember rain." Celine froze. For a moment, she looked as though the world had stopped turning. Then tears slowly filled her eyes. The memory returned piece by piece over the next week. Not all at once. Like fragments of an old film scattered across decades. Rowan had been 16 years old. The girl had been 13. Her family had just moved into town. She had been relentlessly bullied at school because of her clothes, her shyness, and her family's financial struggles. One afternoon, Rowan had found her crying alone beneath a bus shelter during a storm. Most students had ignored her. Some had laughed. But something about her loneliness had bothered him. He remembered sitting beside her, offering half his lunch, talking about ordinary things until she smiled, then doing it again the next day, and the day after that. Eventually, the bullying eased because Rowan had quietly stood up for her. Not dramatically. Not heroically. Just consistently. The memories continued unfolding. He remembered learning that her father had lost his job. He remembered helping her family move furniture. He remembered giving her a silver bracelet before his family relocated to another city. A simple gift purchased with savings from a summer job. Nothing expensive. Nothing extraordinary. Just a reminder that someone believed in her. When the final memory surfaced, Rowan sat speechless in his hospital bed. Celine entered the room and immediately saw understanding in his eyes. "You remember?" He nodded slowly. "The bracelet." She smiled through tears. "The bracelet." Rowan felt overwhelmed. For years he had assumed those small acts of kindness were insignificant. Just ordinary moments from adolescence. Moments he had nearly forgotten. Yet clearly they had meant something far greater to her. "What happened after I left?" he asked. Celine pulled a chair beside his bed. Sunlight poured through the window as she began telling her story. After Rowan's family moved away, life remained difficult for several years. Her father struggled to find stable work. Money was scarce. She often felt invisible. But she never forgot the one person who treated her with dignity when nobody else did. Whenever things became overwhelming, she looked at the bracelet. Whenever she doubted herself, she remembered his encouragement. Eventually, she focused on her education. She studied relentlessly. Won scholarships. Entered nursing school. And dedicated her life to helping people because someone once helped her when she desperately needed it. By the time she finished speaking, Rowan could barely hold back emotion. He had spent much of his adult life believing he hadn't accomplished anything meaningful. His career was average. His achievements ordinary. His life unremarkable. Yet sitting before him was living proof that kindness creates ripples far beyond what we can see. A few weeks later, Rowan's recovery suffered a setback. An infection developed around one of his injuries. Additional procedures became necessary. Fear returned. So did frustration. The road ahead suddenly seemed much longer. One difficult afternoon, after receiving discouraging news from his doctors, Rowan found himself staring out the window fighting tears. For the first time since the accident, hopelessness crept in. He wondered whether he would ever fully recover. Whether his old life was gone forever. Whether surviving had simply delayed another kind of loss. Then Celine arrived. She didn't offer clichés. She didn't pretend everything would be easy. Instead, she reminded him of something he had once taught her years ago without realizing it. She reminded him that progress happens one step at a time. One day at a time. One choice at a time. Exactly the way she had rebuilt her own life. The words stayed with him. And gradually, Rowan began fighting again. Weeks turned into months. His strength returned. The walker became a cane. The cane became independence. Pain slowly surrendered to determination. The bright daylight that streamed through his hospital window each morning no longer felt distant. It felt hopeful. Like a promise waiting beyond the glass. Finally, the day arrived when doctors announced he could go home. The news should have filled him with joy. Instead, he felt unexpectedly emotional. Hospitals are strange places. They witness people's worst moments. Their fears. Their losses. Their vulnerabilities. And somehow those experiences forge connections that become difficult to leave behind. On the morning of discharge, Rowan packed his belongings slowly. Before leaving, he waited for Celine. When she arrived, neither of them knew exactly what to say. Some relationships don't fit neatly into categories. They become something deeper. A reminder that lives can intersect in extraordinary ways. Rowan thanked her for everything. For her care. For her patience. For reminding him who he had once been. Celine smiled and handed him a small envelope. Inside was an old photograph. A faded picture taken nearly 20 years earlier. A teenage boy standing beside a shy young girl beneath a school gymnasium banner. Both smiling awkwardly at the camera. Rowan stared at it in disbelief. A moment he barely remembered. A moment she had carried for decades. As he looked up, tears filled both their eyes. "You saved me twice," Celine said softly. "Once when I was 13. She paused. "And once when you reminded me that kindness still exists." Months passed after Rowan left the hospital. His recovery continued steadily. Life slowly regained its rhythm. But something inside him had changed forever. He became more intentional, more present, more aware of how even small actions shape other people's lives. The experience transformed him. One afternoon, he began volunteering at local community programs, helping teenagers facing challenges similar to those Celine had endured years earlier. He never told them his story. He simply showed up, listened, encouraged, believed in them. Because now he understood something powerful. Most people never realize the impact they have on others. A kind word, a helping hand, a moment of compassion. These things often seem insignificant when we give them. Yet they can become lifelines for someone struggling in silence. Years later, Rowan and Celine remained close friends. Their connection had been forged by kindness, separated by time, and reunited by fate. And every now and then, when life became difficult, they would laugh about the same question that started everything. "Remember me? Should I?" A question that once reflected forgotten memories, but now represented something much deeper. Proof that goodness never truly disappears. It travels through lives, across years, through unexpected reunions waiting for the right moment to return. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Speaks. Stories like these remind us that even our smallest acts of kindness may become someone else's reason to keep going.